So what's the cheat code for being able to move us from where we are to where we want to be, recognizing all the way, oh yeah, that's how I'm built. Yep, that's how I'm wired. So if I'm upset, I'm more likely to, want carbs. That doesn't make me a bad person, right?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Leadership Syllabus. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. The Leadership Syllabus podcast provides insights from leaders on the main leadership lesson they've learned from their work, life, and experiences and who they are as a person. Each 30-minute mod will capture a bit about who the guest is, their work, and the one lesson they would contribute to the Leadership Syllabus. This collection of mods will offer you a one-series stop of real-world and life lessons, to enhance your own self-understanding, awareness, and effectiveness in leadership and life. And today's mod is on narrative leadership. And my guest today is Dr. Bridget Cooper. And Dr. B is a leadership development expert, facilitator, and coach who helps teams and leaders think and communicate more clearly and strategically so they can work and navigate problems proactively and effectively. B is a TEDx speaker, certified hypnotist, and best-selling author of 8 books on communication, conflict, change, and empowerment, including her latest release, the book, How to Navigate Clocksuckers and Lead a Happy, Abundant Life, in addition to her 2023 toolkit, Unflappable, How Smart People Quit Overthinking, Ditch the Drama, and Thrive at Work. Her ambitious mission is to change the world one life at a time. And I had Bridget on for 3 episodes of the Book Leads podcast. In 2022, April 2022, in episode 24, we covered a book, Pain Rebel, How We Take Our Power Back. In October of 2023, in episode 71, we covered Unflappable, How Smart People Quit Overthinking, Ditch the Drama, and Thrive at Work. Episode 132, we covered her latest book, The Book, How to Navigate Clocksuckers and Live a Happy, Abundant Life, and that was in May of this year. B, thank you for coming back for this series.
Thank you, John. So I think what I'm hearing is that in order to be on your podcast, I need to keep writing books because every time I write a book, I get to come on. So I guess I got to get number 9 in the can, right?
See, I agree with you, but what's messed up with that is that you stole my joke because I told you that. So now you're just hawking my jokes, but that's all right. That's okay.
Hey,
just keep writing.
Imitation is the best form of flattery, John.
Listen,
so here we go.
I appreciate that. Listen, if I haven't said no up to this point, keep them coming. I know you're kind of over the book writing for now, but I'm sure you'll get back to it whenever it happens. Open invitation, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking the next one. I was actually chatting with some folks at Daybreak Coffee Roasters in Glastonbury. If you haven't been there, you need to visit. But I was chatting with them about this idea for going on a cross-country road trip adventure on my own and writing a book on the perspectives and the stories that people tell about their lives and the just trying to find like a theme as I go, like creating it as I travel.
Awesome. That's amazing.
So there might be another one in my toolkit at some point. So we'll see.
Yeah, you've spoken about the past experiences you've had with cross-country trips. So you've already done it. You had some company while you were doing it and some issues out on the road, but
that's what life's all about, right? Whether
Absolutely.
You're on the road cross country or you're in your own backyard and in your office space, you're always having adventures if you look at it that way.
Life is going to happen no matter where you are.
Yeah. Well, that leads into us talking about what we're talking about, right?
Exactly.
It's the stories we share.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in starting off this conversation, how would you describe yourself? Who are you as a person?
Ooh. Well, professionally, I call myself a cage rattler because I'm always looking to kind of shake people up to their own conditions so they can figure out how to shift things and live a better life. As a person, I'm a mom. I'm a friend. I'm a human who's just trying to do my very best day over day to leave the world better, leave situations better than I found them, and be really guided by my own inner compass about what's going to leave this world better and how I'm going to experience and offer the best of my gifts while I'm here.
And then just to dive into your work before we dive into the mod and the theme of the mod, tell us a little more about your work. What does that look like in the day-to-day? What does the work look like with your clients, facilitations, however you want to share about it? What does that work look like?
I thank you. Yeah. So I have been doing what I've been doing. I started my own business about 22 years ago. And I love the eclectic nature of the things I get to do and the different people I get to work with. The heaviest weight of my business is in one-on-one executive or personal coaching to help people kind of unpack problems and repackage better solutions. And I do that also with teams through strategic planning and with workshops on communication, conflict, change, strategic planning, time management, things like that. Anything that helps us be better leaders, more effective leaders and communicators and problem solvers. And then, keynotes, workshops, whether it be at conferences or in-house things to help people with their own personal toolkit and resolving high level conflict. I get brought in sometimes when we've got leaders or team members who are, at each other's proverbial throats, sometimes actual throats, and coming in and helping them rethink that conflict and rethink their commitment to something other than perpetuating that, like redefining roles and things like that, creating new agreements.
Yeah.
It's a lot of analysis of figuring out how they're looking at the things that are affecting them, so that just simply by looking at them differently, they can have a whole host of different options to solve them, and then having real tactical practical solutions, which when you name my last two books, that's what they are. They're toolkits of being able to just in a minute, like 3 minutes reading a few pages, go, oh, that's a totally different way than I would have solved the problem before, and now I
Yeah.
have hope to solve the problem.
Yeah. B, you and I have talked a lot over the last 3 episodes that we did
Mhm.
together. You go into how you got into this work. We keep
Yeah.
this one short, 30 minutes, but briefly explain to people what it is that drove you to this work.
I think there's a couple things. One is I was not happy applying the gifts I had in the way that I was able to apply them. I was getting closer. I call myself Goldilocks. I started off in HR and I thought I was going to be helping people with their problems. And what I was doing was administering payroll and, terminations and performance reviews. And then I moved over into doing therapy. And then I was like, whoa, like a little hot in here, right? Getting a little deep. I think it was the timing as well in my own personal journey, and it was just a little too much. And then I thought, oh, I've got to get this doctorate in leadership. That's what it's been mandated by my boss if I'm going to take this job. And I thought, wow, okay, so my experience in leadership, my experience in HR, my experience in counseling, they all go together to create this space for people. I think there were also some inflection points for me quickly that were like health issues that really put into perspective. If this is how I was going to leave this life, is this the condition in which I wanted to leave it? Did I leave the best parts of me behind, or did I hold them back in some self containment that was unnecessary? And that's what led to this career. And I often joke, but it's not really a joke. It's the facts. It led to me getting this career that allowed me to be the best version of myself, and it also signaled the end of my marriage because those two things were incongruent, right? So
Mm.
whenever I challenge people to think about how they could live their best life, I'm also challenging them to consider and experience the loss and grief that's going to come with those changes, because it's not just all good news,
Yeah.
right?
No, in short, with the other podcasts, it's amazing how much of the work that people are doing, the great work that you're doing, all of you, to change the world in whatever way you feel fit, that feels natural, that you want to see. It's
Yeah.
incredible how much of that came from their prior challenges, obstacles. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like those challenges in life they didn't go to waste. They
Right.
weren't forgotten in vain. It's like the people picked up whatever the traumas or challenges were and just
Yeah.
found a way to shed some light on those for others and help guide them through that. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that response.
Yeah.
B
Those are
for
the most inspiring people, right, John? Like when we meet people who took something and they transmuted their pain or their experience to something greater, whether you're talking Nelson Mandela or, Desmond Tutu or like Elie Wiesel or Viktor Frankl, or like, you could keep going, right?
Oh
Like all
yeah.
these people who, Malala, who took something that was so terrible and went, you know what, I'm not only going to recover from that, I'm going to take that and I'm going to make something even better than I could have made without it with it.
Yeah.
that's magic in there.
I think that's magic because there's something about falling down,
Mm,
whether it is trauma, whether it is failure, whatever way you want to look at it, going to your
right.
darkest, lowest point. There's something about getting to that point because it's not easy. You
Mm-mm.
can't
No.
generalize it across people, but it's like once you have nothing, there's only one way up and you
Right.
can design it to what you want. Um, so yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you gave some amazing examples there.
No. Some good people. Yeah.
Bridget, for you, I'll get to the leadership aspect of the
Yeah.
question, but for you, what has your business taught you? What's one of the biggest general lessons your work has taught you?
That in order to serve my clients best, I have to keep growing at least at the pace that they are. And so I think, we talk about being able to help people. You don't usually help the people who are where you are, it's where you just were, right? So, like, if you want to help more people, you have to be able to like stay with them on their healing journey, but also heal even more. So, I have been blessed with so many clients who have reminded me and challenged me to heal parts of me that need to be healed in order to continue to be able to help them once they get beyond that thing they're in, right? And be able to help more people because I'm continuing that journey. Like they're not. I remember when I was working in getting my master's degree in marriage and family therapy. My supervisor, my mentor, would say like, we are the client too, and we have to see ourselves in them because we are not better than them. We may be in a different place in our lives than them, but we have to see how what we're seeing in them reflects something in us. And if we miss that lesson, then we miss so much of it. And I think that level of empathy, compassion, and accountability for me has been a beautiful piece of the work.
So speak about how that ties into the mod title,
Yeah.
narrative leadership, narrative storytelling. How do you kind of take what you've seen and craft it into this message, this mod title?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we have to recognize a few things, kind of baseline things. One, we are all storytellers. We are all narrating our lives, whether it's in the confines of our mind or in conversation with others. We're telling people about who we are, who we believe the world to be, and other people to be, and situations and hopelessness or hopefulness, whatever that is. And we don't need to be politicians. Yesterday was election day, right? We don't need to be politicians to be storytellers. We are storytellers as humans. And so when we look at the experiences we've had as storytellers, we get to decide actively or inactively, consciously or unconsciously, what details, what aspects of those stories we want to highlight, we want to showcase, we want to lead with, we want to include, that then express to us and to others what what we think of ourselves, what we think of them, what we value, all of those things. So to me, the importance that I place on hope, the importance that I place on healing journeys, the love, the deep love and respect that I have for my clients will show through in what I just said, which was a story I told you about how I got here and what I do and what my greatest lessons have been. So that tells you something, right? That gives you something. And I think as leaders, we have this beautiful opportunity to really harness the power of storytelling to get people attached to the mission, to align objectives, to get people enthusiastic and collaborative and joining together towards something bigger than they could do themselves in the way that we tell the story. It's not about saying that bad things don't happen or there aren't struggles. It's about how do we cast them? How do we like mix them up and showcase certain parts of it to be able to articulate and inspire the people we're trying to move forward, because people crave inspiration. And if we don't give them that with feet underneath it, legs underneath it, we lose them, right? And we
Yeah.
lose their talent and their ability to contribute at a high level way.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes if people, obviously not generalizing, but there
Yeah.
are some people that they don't even know they want to be inspired.
Right.
Like sometimes they have to be told a story or asked a question to realize, oh, there's more to what I'm seeing. You
Right.
know, I'm not recognizing my story. I'm not recognizing the value that that story brings to where I am now. I'm not
Yeah.
recognizing how I'm continuing to write my story, dictate my story, narrate my story. So it's
Right.
incredible how just one question, comment, observation can help somebody wake up to the
Yeah.
fact that, yeah, I do want to be inspired. That
Right.
going through the motions of life blindly just kind of reacting to everything is
Hmm.
not what I really want. But it's incredible how just that one little prod by somebody in the right direction can wake them up to what they really want.
And how we do that prod, John, is so important because it's based in brain science. So we have and hold on to uh, 5 times as many negative, bad thoughts as we do good thoughts. We are wired for survival. Therefore, we are wired for fear. And if we're wired for fear and we're wired for survival, and we know that we've got a 5-to-1 ratio on holding on to, being inclined to hold on to 5 times more negative thoughts than we have positive thoughts, we are not going to believe ourselves. We're just like, oh, we had a negative
Yeah.
thought. I'm going to replace it with a positive thought. Because you're like, no, 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 my brain wiring says something else. So the way in which we try to inspire people through storytelling is by recognizing that the actual anatomy of the brain that's set up to have that fear response is anchored in the amygdala, right? So it's in this fear center of our brain.
Yep.
And that part and our prefrontal cortex, the planner, the hope person, the
The
problem solver,
strategist.
the strategist, the creative person, right,
Yeah.
is stuck up in the front part of our brains. They cannot occur at the same time. So if you
Yeah.
want to get out of the back bottom base part, that survival piece of yourself, you have to be able to move yourself to the front. And the way you do that is not necessarily by making a statement, because a statement can be refuted with another statement that's like, oh, you think that's good? Well, I think that's bad. Let me tell you why. And the more I repeat that negative story, the more I'm going to believe it and stick to it. You ask a question, because a question forces that part of the brain to turn on and go, oh, I wonder what that could be. Like, I need to answer a question. I need to solve a problem. I need to inquire. And all of a sudden, all the blood flow and neurons firing in that base part of your brain get thrown forward into something that is
Mm.
far more productive. And that's one of the reasons why storytelling is such a leadership concern and superpower, because when you're telling stories and you're inviting people to be up in here in that creative part, you're asking questions. I wonder, can you imagine what it would be like if we went there? What would life be like if we did it this way? Like that,
Yeah.
you then move people up into the part of their brains that can actually contribute their gifts and not allow them to just be stuck in whatever old version of events wasn't serving them.
Yeah. It's not just emotional reaction, but it's
Yeah,
tactical
correct.
thinking, tactical preparation,
Hmm.
tactical design.
Yeah. It's how we're wired. It's like I am not a person who's like, oh, we're wired that way. That's just how people are. Well, okay, that's how people are, but they can also be different with some really intentional, focused intent. So what's the cheat code for being able to move us from where we are to where we want to be? Recognizing all the way, oh yeah, that's how I'm built. Yep, that's how I'm wired. So if I'm upset, I'm more likely to, want carbs. That doesn't make me a bad person, right? That just makes me a person who craves a thing because that's what works with my brain chemistry. So what's a cheat code for that? Right? Like how can I not shame that part of me, but allow that part of me
Yeah.
to have another road to follow. If I think, leadership's awful and, managers are terrible and, capitalism is broken. Okay. Okay. All right. But what can I do to move the needle forward in my space to make it so that I'm not just telling that safety based, fear based story, that there might be some opportunity in that in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of overlaps with the way that I talk to my kids when they're frustrated with
Yeah,
things. Where you do have respect for the way that the emotion comes up, right? You can't just
sure.
shut it down. You just can't
No,
ignore it or suppress it. They feel the feelings, but at the same time, while they're in that experience, I'm asking them questions to think about what's
right.
happened, what they want, how they can change their approach. And the language adjusts based
Sure.
on the age level, of course. But as you were
Right.
talking about, instead of just stopping it, asking
Hmm.
a question to really move where they're focusing, where their mind is focusing from that reptilian brain to
Correct.
the higher brain. That was a great
Yeah.
example. I never thought
Yeah.
about it that way, just asking a question where it causes you to shift your thinking. So I appreciate that.
It moves the brain's chemical responses to a much more productive area of the brain.
Yeah.
And it's a friend of mine years ago before I had kids. He said the number one clue to parenting is distraction. And when I really broke down what he was saying, it was
Yeah.
actually about curiosity. It was
Yeah.
moving from fear and wanting certainty to curiosity. Right? It was just, and like he
And
didn't know it. He didn't know he was saying that, but that's exactly what he was saying. And it worked every time. I mean, my kids
so,
thought I was a little nutty when I'd ask certain weird questions to
yeah,
distract them from what happened. But like it
that's no, I
in
mean,
that,
that's what I do with my toddler.
yeah,
So the other examples I
yeah,
gave you were from my 10-year-old and my 6-year-old. The way that
yeah,
you just described it reminded me of what I did with my daughter this morning, where she started to get cranky. And
yeah.
then I asked her a question about something unrelated, and her mind just kind
Yeah, and here's the thing, and what's beautiful about that, John, is the litmus test, and you can apply this in with anyone in your life, not just a toddler, but we're all
yeah.
toddlers
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
inside.
Oh,
But
yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
but is that if I'm really hurt and it's really big, I cannot be distracted.
Of course.
Right.
Of
So
course.
it's a
Yes.
testing ground that if I
Yes.
ask you a question and I look to like refocus you and it's so big, it cannot be
Mhm.
moved. That's a good test for how big it is. Because if I can distract you, then it wasn't that big. If I can't distract you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like don't
Yeah,
cry. It's
yeah.
like, if I can distract you with this, it probably wasn't as painful
Yes.
as the tears are saying it
Yes.
is. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
And so,
yeah.
yeah, so it's
That's
the
why I
same
say
thing.
all this stuff, anything that has to do with
Yeah.
leadership, it goes from toddler all the way to senior executive. The only
Those are
thing that
people.
changes is how people are people. The
Yeah.
only thing that changes is obviously the vernacular, the language you're using,
Right.
all of that, but it's
Right.
instinctual. So B, when it comes
Yeah.
as an audience call to action, when it comes to
Yes.
action steps they can take for narrative leadership, what are
Mm,
some action steps people can take to really put this mod title, narrative leadership, into
yeah.
action?
So I'm going to give you three. One we didn't cover too much. One I think we nodded to, and one was pretty strong. So I'll start there. One is to recognize that we're always telling stories and to get really curious about the way that we are telling those stories. Now, I could have told you all the stories that we talked about here on the call today. I could have told you those same stories. I could have pulled out different details, same experience, right? The same reason why people who grew up with siblings describe their upbringings very differently is because they grab different stories, different details, different highlights from that, right? Is to pay attention to the stories that they're telling personally and professionally. Even they could ask their friends or their coworkers, are there stories I repeat all the time? Like my kids could tell you there are certain stories that I tell everyone, and they're like, that is one of your go to stories, mom, right?
Yeah.
So, what are the stories that you continue to tell? And is there like a role that you play in that story? Are you the hero? Are you the victim? Are you the villain? Are you a bystander? Like what role are you playing in the story that you are telling? And how does that serve you, right? Because you could play any role in the story depending on how you cast the details, how you grabbed one part over another, right? Number two, you could ask yourself again to be curious, what might I be missing in telling this story, right? Is there a detail I'm missing that would add to me being able to be in another piece of this, in another role in this? Number two, and this is very related, is how are they talking to themselves in the stories that they are saying? Because sometimes if we are telling stories a lot that do cast us as the victim or a bystander or even the hero, and maybe we need to kind of check ourselves, right? Is to wonder, like, how am I talking to myself? And would I, in that story, the way that I am narrating that, would I say that when characterize a friend in that same way? Would you talk to someone you respected in that same way? Because the stories are not just about like a story about kind of what happened, but a story is also a characterization of who we are and what our potential is as leaders and as humans, right? And the third piece that I could go into a whole workshop on this, and I have, is this idea of when we tell stories sometimes, one of the ways that we make ourselves a victim or a bystander or an unwilling participant in our own lives is by saying the word should, by saying the words have to. Because I want to say something that may throw people. There is nothing you have to do. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to eat. You don't have to breathe. You don't have to do anything. Now, there are plentiful consequences to not doing any of those things, but those are choices you are making. So when we say we should or we have to, we are removing the agency of choice. And when we take choice away, we stop being the lead character in our own story. And we shut down so many choices and options, which again pulls us into that really smart part of our brain where creative thought and more options and better problem solving occurs. So I really want people, if they just do this, if they can just move from should and have to get to and want to, and test those out for themselves for a bit, they might see how they are shutting down certain choices and also telling a story that really doesn't put them in a power position.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't reinforce any of that enough. Whether it's coaching clients, whether it's colleagues, whether it's close friends and you're having conversations about challenges that they're having, regardless of your relationship, asking them questions, getting them to think a different way.
Yeah.
Because we just get stuck in our head so much. And most of what we get stuck in our head in that quicksand is that emotional reaction.
Right.
That it's mostly reactive. You don't hear too much about that proactive. Okay, instead of thinking about it this way, how would you think about it differently? Or what are you asking yourself? The shoulds versus the want to. So I appreciate you sharing that because I think so many of us, when we're working into leadership, building into leadership, we forfeit so much of that. And I don't think students really see that as a tool. They'll go in, they'll do the work, how they were taught, their demeanor, their approach, their knowledge, the information. But they kind of fall into the prescriptive environment, the robotic environment of just kind of surviving, not really stepping back and seeing their story, their narrative, the way that they want to go.
Yeah, and I think also, and akin to that, is this idea, this mistaken idea that certainty means confidence.
Yeah.
It takes far more confidence to be curious than it ever has been to be certain.
Yes. Absolutely.
So the more that you can in your own storytelling get curious about how you're telling the story, ask questions in the stories that you're telling, be curious about whether or not you're missing anything in the story that you're telling, be curious about what you don't know, right? Like, what am I missing here? That creates a not only your own confidence to go up, that you have the strength to be vulnerable, to be fallible, to be not the smartest person in the room ever in every moment, know everything about everyone. But it also empowers the people who work with and for you to model that behavior, because we are social creatures and we mirror one another. So if you give me permission to do something by you doing it first, then you have given the whole organization, the whole network of folks, more access to their gifts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
B, thank you so much for sitting down again for
Thank
a
you.
conversation. If there's anything to the listener, to the viewer, if there's anything I might have missed, there's so much to cover, so little time, let me know and I'll reach out to B, see what kind of insight, guidance, wisdom, anything at all she can provide back. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening and subscribing, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.